what's fun about doing interdisciplinary research?
Okay, so I think the most fun about interdisciplinary research is that there are no boundaries. So when I was doing research in English, which is my main discipline, I do love that too, but I think with gender and women's studies, the sky is the limit. I can borrow from so many different fields and approaches, so that means I get to meet people who are doing work that's so different from what I'm used to, and I think that's really stretched me as a researcher, and I think it will help you to do gender and women's studies research and interdisciplinary research in all kinds of aspects of your life, no matter the kind of research you're doing in the future that pertains to your real life at home, researching something that affects your family, or the kind of research that you're doing in your major classes. I think you'll be very well versed in so many different approaches, which is really useful and a lot of fun, actually.
So describe your last research project, including the process you went through.
Okay, so my last research project is really weird. It's about smell, and it's about how people try to classify, judge, or stereotype people through non-visual ways. So how they think that people smell a certain way, or people sound a certain way, and that they can read race or gender or homosexuality that way. And so that's what I was working on, and I got to work with historians, and I got to work with psychologists, and I got to work with people in the science fields. It was just really interesting. I guess my process was just, first of all, to read everything I could get my hands on. I spent a lot of time in the library, but also I spent a lot of time interviewing people and their perspectives, things they were taught, especially in the South growing up, about racism, sexism, homophobia. So just getting out there and talking to people, gathering people's stories is what I think is the most interesting. So yeah, a lot of sort of archival research, just digging, and then also some face-to-face research, which was useful. After every question, I'm done.
So would you say you do more qualitative or quantitative research?
I do more qualitative research, for sure. You don't even want to hear me talk about my math grades. No, I actually like qualitative research better. It just suits the way my brain thinks. But quantitative is so useful too, and I have been better trained on that in the past few years, which is great because my original discipline didn't do any quantitative research, so I had no background in that. But it's so useful. I'm glad you're being exposed to both in this class. But me personally, I think I just like to gather stories, and I like stories, and I like the way things fit together through narrative. And so I often find myself doing more qualitative than quantitative.
So what documentation styles do you generally use?
So I tend to have MLA as my wheelhouse. I should expand out more. I've done some with Chicago. I've even done some weird things with Turabian. I don't do that. But yeah, MLA is generally what I use the most. Although I actually think APA is easier. But don't show this to my English colleagues.
And so what's your process? You said you read everything you get your hands on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you collaborate a lot?
I do collaborate a lot. My last project was not collaborative, but the one before that was. I had a co-author. We worked on a book together. And I think training in gender and women's studies serves you really well if you want to do collaborative research, because some fields there's a lot of competition, and you're wanting to do just your research all by yourself. But gender and women's studies as a field is such a collaborative field, and its roots are in people helping each other out when they were oppressed and in difficult situations. So it's just really useful, I think, to collaborate. And I think having a background in gender and women's studies will give you that kind of spirit and that kind of openness so that you can learn from other people, which is just tremendously helpful as a researcher.
So we're doing some peer review, some practice in class, where they're looking at each other's topics, they're looking at each other's project plans. Do you think that peer review is an important part of the research process?
I think it's sort of a critically important part of the research process. You get so involved in your research. Everybody thinks research is dry. But at this level of your college career, I think you're going to start to find it fun, because it's treasure hunt, and you're digging in there, and you're finding out all this stuff that nobody else maybe has seen or thought about in years or ever. And you kind of just get really focused on it, and you can't see the broader picture. So I've always found at several checkpoints in my research, I like to go and ask other people, this is my research trajectory, this is what I'm finding out. what other sources might you know of, what else should I be doing, and that kind of peer review, looking at my work and making sure there aren't sort of large holes that I've just overlooked by being so excited about something else. I think it's so important.
Thank you.
That's all.